And we are back, and we are talking about this, okay? I heard someone in the other segment talk about BJ, I think was talking about the old famous people that are on this, and so much is changing. So now let's dive into DeFi or DeFi finance, decentralized finance. What does that mean? You've probably been wondering as you are just maybe hearing that for the first time today. How is this different from centralized finance, which if you were at, Chase or Bank of America in the last couple of weeks or so, that would have been more centralized. So, and how is DeFi going to change the way we pay for stuff, we save our money, we invest our money, or how we live our lives? So we welcome back now Iyanuoluwa is here, Odebode, founder of Zeitios. We talked to him earlier, and he is an artificial intelligence guy and machine learning guy. So he has a lot to bring to this conversation. Also joining us for this segment is Kaylee Bushell, Chief of Staff at Decentology, a platform that simplifies decentralization app creation. So that's kind of a mouthful, but we're going to get right into that. Iyanu, okay, let's start. What does decentralized finance or DeFi really mean, and how is it different, just in simple terms, from centralized finance?
Thank you again for having me. Really great to be here again, and great to have this conversation with you guys. DeFi is basically a movement that is using open source and distributed network to transform financial products into reliable, transparent protocol without any intermediary. Typically, we had, the banks, helping us to coordinate how we talk to one another. But now we can all talk to each other directly, because now we can, totally get off, remove the third party, right? And have that direct communication with one another. One of the advantages of this is that we're able to control, how we manage our own money, right? We reduce risk of fraud or risk of mismanagement of funds or risk of theft. So that is DeFi. Centralized means, you have this central authority that sort of controls what happens and how we interact and how we, and so they could determine what the interest rate looks like, or, they could determine what the loan interest would look like and things like that.
And so before we go further, we'll come back to you, Iyanu, for more. But Kaylee, why don't you pick up kind of where Iyanu left us and tell us how DeFi is really changing the way we transact business and really how it impacts our lives.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you as well for having me on. Yeah, just to add on to that, I think that was just a great overview. Really, I'd like to touch on the whole idea of DeFi is really democratizing financial transactions. So just really opening it up to all. The one big thing about DeFi is you actually own your identity, you own your wallet, you own your assets. That's a really big thing within DeFi. You go to a bank like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, they own your identity when you are buying a stock, or, you have a savings account, or just money at that bank. They are owning those assets and they are the custodian of that. But in DeFi, you own your assets, you're the custodian of your assets. And, back into the idea of democratizing financial transactions, when you're making transactions within DeFi, it's more, there's more equality, there's more, since you own your identity, you're able to get a loan, you're able to get loans. You're able to get a loan without having to provide your credit score, without having to provide details about your identity. So that's a really big aspect and really big new innovation within the DeFi space versus traditional finance.
Absolutely. When you said that right away, I thought of the economist Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, evening the playing field. And so when you talk about not having to go through this third party centralized group of people sitting in a boardroom, looking at your paper application to see if you have this history that they have deemed is worthy of you getting this loan through this score. I think Dr. Watkins earlier called it the adult report card, which is your credit report, right? In this case, it sounds to me, Kaylee, what you're saying is that no longer do you have to go through that room of people looking at your paper, but microloans or loans which are given directly are now accessible to you, which changes things for people. When I think about all around the world, and about micro lending in places where, in many parts of Africa and other areas that their infrastructures can be different. This kind of creates that interface, but it's not just for those areas. It's also super great in terms of, I can think of so many ways that people here who want to launch businesses and need capital. So speak a little bit more about that so people understand. I think that's really critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess to touch more upon like lowering the barriers to entry, creating that equality. So to give an example of like, I guess a real world use case. So I guess, for example, you want to you're buying a car, and to buy a car, you have to provide your credit score, maybe your social security number, other details. You have to provide, fill out a bunch of questions, details on, your background, your race, your age, your credit scores, all that stuff. But within DeFi, let's say you want to get a loan, you can just go on to one of these, we call them dApps, short for decentralized applications. So you can go on to one of these decentralized applications that provides loans, and you just connect. There's a button in the top right hand corner. You just click connect wallet, and you're able to just get a loan without having to jump through all these hoops and provide your credit score, provide all these other questions. So that's a really, I guess that's a quick rundown of how it works within decentralized finance.
That is absolutely transformational. I mean, what you just outlined, to not have to go and hope and pray. I mean, how many people have gotten denied and rejected? And it may have been for some, lapse of judgment or just a financially rough time that they experienced. And now that is on their credit report. So let's talk about these dApps. Okay, where would somebody access a dApp, this decentralized application?
Yeah, so I guess in the blockchain crypto space, we call them, as I said, dApps and decentralized applications. So, I mean, it's just, you think of apps nowadays, but, in the Web2 space in the world now, they're apps, but now in Web3 in the crypto space, since decentralized, we call them dApps. And to access these dApps, you're able to just, type in, go to their sites. They have, their own websites. Like, for example, I'll throw out a few names of these dApps within DeFi. One is Iyanuoluwa Finance. So you just go to their website.
Say that one again. Could you say
Iyanuoluwa?
Spell that.
Yearn. And then another one is Aave, Aave. So, I mean, you really just are right now. I mean, it's harder to get started in the space just because, there's so many, there's just a lot of stuff developing right now. So it's harder for new people to see what's out there, but really just doing some quick Googling, looking around, and just going to these websites.
Okay, well, now, may I just jump in, Kaylee, and ask you about safety? Because when you say looking around and you say jumping in, that sounds like a ripe environment for, I pressed the wrong key and now all of my money is gone.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's the thing. You always need to do your research, and definitely looking at really trusted, trusted applications, or if you want to say trusted dApps. So by that, you need to really read through and make sure they're audited. You need to make sure they're backed by someone. You need to make sure, it's just like at the end of the day, really doing your research and making sure, if someone else in the space, making sure they saying it's okay.
Okay, and
But
so, because what that looks like then, Kaylee, is just kind of bouncing around within Google or another search engine to kind of read extensively and see what people are saying. Is that the way you do the vetting process?
yeah, right now, I mean, right now, like I said, everything's still developing. It's new and exciting. So there's a lot of stuff popping up, and I understand, yeah, there are a lot of stuff out there that can be scams. But right now it's definitely just researching, going through, reading a bunch of news outlets too. I know a lot of publications like Masari, I think that was mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Masari is a great publication. So some of these trusted publications in the crypto space would be
Okay.
great outlets to look at.
Right. That
DeFi.
becomes your friend, again, about having community, having a resource. I don't mean to cut you off, but I know that we're dealing with
Yeah.
time. And in case Iyanu wanted to jump in, because right away, I think of always comparing this to traditional concepts and wondering about collateral. I mean, how does that come into play? Are these funds collateralized? Yeah. How do you keep yourself safe, or do you have to guarantee these loans in some way?
Sorry. Okay, Kayla, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if you were gonna jump in. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, keeping yourself safe, doing the research, in terms of, you're asking about, are these collateralized? Is that what you're?
Yes. Do you have to provide some form? I mean, how is it, and where are the funds coming from? I mean,
Yeah.
banks, we know what they do, the
So,
fractionalization. Mhm.
yeah, quickly. If you're getting a loan, if you want, I mean, there's so many things you can do to DeFi. You can, do like trading, swapping, all this stuff. But if you're getting a loan, you need to provide collateral for that. So you provide collateral, and then you're able to like borrow a certain percentage off of that.
Okay,
Based
so
on
collateral, so in a traditional sense, there are some aspects to this transaction that are borrowed from what we know, what we're familiar with right now, but you still don't have some of the same sort of the hoops or the ladder rungs that you have to climb in terms of being able to participate in this. I mean, I appreciate you giving those examples too, Yearn and AAVA. And Iyanu, I saw you were nodding along. There were some things that it looked like you wanted to add.
Yeah, so I was just going to talk about, resources that could be used to learn about the stuff. I think there's a site called the Crypto White Papers, and it does have a whole lot on dApps, just like Kaylee was sharing. There's another one called Official dApps Coins, or something like that.
Say that one again. What was the second one?
Official dApp
Okay.
Coins, I believe is what it's called.
Official dApp coin. Okay, got that as well. I'm gonna get my notes.
Yeah, so you could use those resources to start really forming some type of baseline, as to, okay, well, this is what you should expect and things like that. And I also think that, I'm not sure, Kaylee, if you wanted to share a little bit about the smart contracts, and so the smart contracts actually allow you to be able to get all this processes all in place, and all done online and very fast and smooth. And so as you were addressing the issues around not being able to fill the forms and things like that, that's where smart contracts come into.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the smart contracts, because we hear that, and that is, I hear it almost interchangeably, or it's a key part of blockchain, which is what allows some of the transactions to have a foundation. Can you help to kind of break that down for us so it's clear?
So yeah, so
it can be clear.
Yeah, something called the service of money, right? Like, so it's okay. So there's something called the services of money, right? When you want to, get a mortgage, you call Citibank. When you want to do insurance, you call AIG. When you want to do stocks, you call Robinhood. When you want to do payments, we want to exchange payments, you do Western Union, right? So all of these guys, you have to fill forms, you have to do all of these things to be able to sort of get access to this mortgage or this loan, but all of that gets taken care of with the smart contracts. And so, essentially it's just a digital way of making sure that, you're sort of verified in, I want to be careful about my use of word, but yeah, verified in some way, or just eligible for what it is that you're trying to receive. So yeah.
Okay. We are going to go to Q&A, and let me see what's come in just in the last few moments. Let's see. Well, I think this may have been in related to just, again, information that we've shared throughout the day. The question, and we should probably still deal with it anyway, as we're talking about transactions. Tamara Watkins would like to know, do we buy crypto with cash? And then she says, so crypto is being exchanged for cash. So she's not understanding that part.
Yeah, so I can definitely walk you through, or just general gist of how you go about buying crypto. So let's say you have money in your bank account, like US dollars. You can send that money to a crypto, they call it crypto exchange. You can send that money there, and then you're able to buy whatever type of token that you want, token or crypto, people will call it, with that money. So you do buy it with the US dollars, but I mean, you can swap, you can trade and buy with it or with US dollars, but you're not really just buying it with cash.
Okay. Well, so can you walk away with crypto without starting with cash?
I guess technically, I mean, you can, because I mean, it could get more complex, but you really need to, I guess you really need to start with US dollars for now. To get started in the space, you need to start with US dollars, or how you're saying it, cash.
I think what you probably were going to talk about is there is a way, if let's say someone said, hey, it's your birthday, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit down and help you open this wallet, and I'm going to put in your wallet Bitcoin, right? And so then you could take that Bitcoin, if it's held on in a certain wallet, and you could exchange it for something else. So therefore you could technically say, I didn't start with dollars, I started with Bitcoin. Is that right?
Yeah. So if someone sent you another token that wasn't US dollars, then you could buy another token with that. And so yeah, that's what you're getting at.
Okay, very good. And Iyanu, I kind of was reading you, and looked like you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about Bitcoin and, buying it from a fractionalized standpoint, right? It's kind of like you're trying to buy, Apple or stock, or you're trying to buy, AMD or whatnot, and you don't have the exact cash to do so, so there's something called like fractionalized, share buying, where you sort of pay is, $50 worth of that, the fraction of what it will cost to actually own it. The same thing with Bitcoin, you could do that as well, was just what I wanted to add.
Right. And where would you recommend people? Because I think it's so wonderful when people get that practical. I mean, they're looking for, hey, what do you use? Or what would you recommend if you just throw a few out?
I use Coinbase Pro is a good, option to start with. I know I'm not sure if Bill.
But why are you laughing about Coinbase?
Yeah, myself and Bill have conversations around Coinbase, and
yeah.
Coinbase, but you could also there are other platforms as well. I mean, there's one I wouldn't really necessarily recommend for people to start with, which is Robinhood, but
Right.
yeah, but I think Coinbase is probably a better place to to start things out.
Well, I have another question coming in from Daria Musk, and it says, does it matter which app or crypto wallet you use to get started? Are they all safe? Is there an industry standardization maybe process, or one you recommend as experts?
Yeah, I think, as I touched on before, the Coinbase wallet would be the best intro to the space. Obviously, there are a bunch of other wallets out there. Right now, Coinbase and also FTX are the #1 crypto exchanges in the world. So those are the biggest, most trusted. And, for the purpose of this, and if you're getting into the space, those are the two I would suggest.
Okay. And I really want people to get the sense of the power of what DeFi means. I think that these fantastical changes are happening and it's quietly being done around people who get it. And so we want to get more people to get it. And so if you were just to say, hey, I'm standing outside and I want everybody to know this is what's so exciting. What really is your one line to say, because of DeFi, this?
Yeah, one line, that's a lot. I feel like there's so much involved, but I would say that, as I touched on earlier, DeFi is democratizing finance. It's opening up to everyone, lowering the barriers to entry, and you own your identity. So you're able to, you don't have to go to a website and create a username and password. You own your identity. And everything's open source. There's transparency. So, everyone's able to see what transactions you're doing. Everyone's able to see what applications you're interacting with. So I'd say, there are so many different use cases within this, but overall, those are like the main points that I would touch on and why DeFi is just revolutionary.
Well, when you said you don't have to create a username and password, I mean, I just perked up like, what? I mean, because everywhere you go, you have to create that. And I just, from a practical standpoint, if I'm getting this right, please correct me if I'm wrong. When you say this means no longer does the social security number matter. Are you telling me that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess if walk through an example, how you go to just any website or you have a username password, they make you create an account. Within DeFi, as I said earlier, you just go to the website, the DeFi application you're using, and the top right corner, there'll be a button that says connect wallet. So that's your wallet. You're connecting your identity. You're not creating a username and password. You just connect your wallet. You're connecting your identity in a way.
Now that really makes it super simple. And I think everyone who's lived in this digital space, and maybe now that I'm learning, maybe they were living in the Web 2, and Web 2 was all about username and password, so you can be captured in this community. But what you're saying with the DeFi, you get onto whatever the platform is, and boom, when you connect your wallet, that is you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, revolutionary. I think that we can use that word, right? Iyanu, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No worries at all. I think, we for a long time lost the risk of freedom, to our accounts. So now we have control over what we use our accounts for, and also for more return, right? I was talking about, the interest rates that, come with having, the interest rate or no interest at all that comes with,
Right.
having a traditional account. And so now we have that power to do, that more now.
Right. Okay. Let's see. We have a little bit more time for another question. And John Kim writes, can you share basic use cases that would be applicable to young people looking to get into decentralized finance who are new to investing in general? So they want basic use cases. So it's like I've logged off. I heard all these fantastic concepts about what's changed and what's different, but where would I go like right now? And I know you talked about Coinbase. I don't know, that's an example of DeFi. Robinhood, but you said that's not really high on your recommendation list. Yeah, can you pick up there? They want basic use cases that would be applicable for looking to get into decentralized or DeFi.
I see. So, so use cases, is it like, places where they could go? I mean, I was gonna say like, CoinGecko is a very good, place to go to really find out a little more about, some of these, coins, or how to invest in some of them. I would say, I think I'd mentioned earlier about CoinDesk as well, right? Where you could read and find out a little more about what the applications of some of this, or the utilities of some of these, applications are, and how to really best participate in them.
I think if I had to try and read more deeply into the question, and I think, when people are typing, they only have so much space, but the idea is to, maybe if you can share, because you know better, this is your area, what would be an example scenario? Like, say we have a textbook, Boys and Girls Today on page 56, we're going to talk about DeFi. And here's example number one. Bob leaves his house. No, he doesn't have to leave his house, but Bob picks up his telephone because Bob wants to do X. And because of DeFi, Bob goes to X and he's able to do Y.
I see. So a very good application, I think I may have just brushed over it earlier, but I would, probably just dive a little deeper into it, right? So if I wanted to send something to you, Lauren, I would have to send it to my bank. And then my bank would have to help me send that to you, which means you wouldn't receive it directly. It would have to go through your bank for you to get it, right?
So like a wire, you mean like a wire transfer?
A wire, right?
Okay.
So now you don't have to do that anymore because you can send that directly to me. So, yeah.
Okay. And I can send it directly to you because of a decentralized wallet that exists somewhere that I can transfer these currencies through.
Exactly. So we can
Okay.
I mean, what I would add too, I mean, that's, I agree with that. It's great. Those are great for someone getting started. I think the main things, I mean, there are so many like reasons why DeFi is so different from traditional finance, but like the main things for someone to get started is, you can send money, as you touching on, you can send money to someone instantly. You just ask them for their wallet address, and you could just go to your wallet and click send and then put in their wallet address. So you're able to send money instantly to someone without having to go through a middleman, like in the bank. You're able to swap between different assets. And as we were talking about a lot earlier, you're able to easily get a loan. And really, I guess as a new user, I feel like getting a loan and doing all this stuff is probably complex. As a new user, just starting on Coinbase and buying some of these cryptocurrencies and just playing around with it is really a good way to get started. The main area where DeFi takes place is on Ethereum. So once you have your money on Ethereum, you're able to send that, once you have your money on Coinbase, you buy Ethereum, for example, you're able to send that Ethereum to the Ethereum blockchain. And once you're on the Ethereum blockchain, you're able to just play around with all these different applications and DeFi applications and do some really cool things and just learn about these different financial products. Because I do think in DeFi, because everything's so quick and the stock market's open only 5 days a week in a certain time period, but in DeFi, it's open 24 hours every day, which allows for way more complex instruments and way more complex things that you can do.
I love that you made that point. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to highlight that and say, because my son, who's often telling me, Mom, if it's Sunday, I got to wait till Monday to go get my money. And because he's come along in this generation where, in fact, he's got one foot in what was and one foot squarely in what's happening. And he says, but Mom, when I'm on these applications, it's instant. That's my money and I move it how I want to move it. And is that somewhat what you?
Yeah, definitely. And I add to that, like, because of that, you can create way more complex products and complex instruments. You can do a lot more cool things with your money. It's not just you buy a stock and hold it. You can buy crypto and it can get complex, but you can do all these cool things that you could never do in traditional finance, which is interesting.
Well, Kaylee and Iyanu, your expertise has been great. We really are just trying to break these complex concepts down for people and just to be able to give them really language and terms and some basic understanding, because as you mentioned, everything is evolving quickly. and it's getting very complicated the more people are building upon these technologies. And so having you to be here with us today, it's easy for you. It's like, you know, secondhand nature. You're like, oh yeah, it's this, it's that. But for many people, they're hearing these terms for the first time and really trying to wrap their minds around it. And you've done a great job in breaking it down. So we appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, so coming up, we're getting ready to take a 10-minute break. So now is the time. Maybe you need to take a bathroom break or what have you. Want to get a snack, make a phone call. Maybe you want to open up some of these apps that we've been talking about. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about NFTs, and we're going beyond the hype. Stay with us.